Good morning, afternoon or evening, ladies and gentlemen, all in crypto here, and welcome back, guys, for another jam-packed daily market update. I'm wishing you all a wonderful Wednesday. We're going to be kicking this one off rather macro-economically. We're going to be looking at what Tom Lee, who is becoming somewhat like Marmite, people either love the guy or hate him, is essentially saying in regards to his forecast for the S&P and why he's giving that. He cites the ISMs. He cites home builders. We've got some news actually that mortgage demand from home buyers hits highest level since September despite rising interest rates. There is a correlation between homes that can be considered an asset depending on how you purchase them and what you use them for. They can also be a great liability, one of the worst. But we see mortgage demands continue to surge, and there's a correlation between home builders, or not home builders, there is a correlation between home builders, but mortgage demand, house prices, assets, and money creation, because this is a money creation inflation game. And why we're so zealous here on people investing is because it's a way for you to arbitrage a system. And he cites a number of other things that I want to kind of start things out with. Then we'll get on to some sort of crypto-specific sort of political news in regards to the government shutdown, which is affecting all markets, I believe, as they look for certainty. There was also a release of a long-awaited bipartisan crypto market structure draft. This gives sort of crypto over to the CFTC. And I'm going to talk to you about trend lines for BTC dominance, and how we may be breaking down of a sort of supporting trend line for BTC Dom on the shorter time frames, which equals dominance down if we do break to the downside of that, and how that's also present on Bitcoin. And the stage is very much set. And the reason that we look at this kind of macro stuff is because it's relevant. You know, we are a kind of microcosm in the kind of macro scale of things. And, you know, what happens with markets more broadly is going to affect crypto. It's a beta of that. And you guys know that ultimately believe the big picture really can be summarized by the S&P 500 for markets. And we believe the S&P 500 is now in a new bull market, which is the case really post a 20% pullback plus being a bear market. Every time you've engulfed this, you've gone on and put in a high, you've completely retraced the 20% pullback and gone on and put in a new high. The markets have actually gone on and rallied for a period of minimal, the shortest one being back leading into March 2020 of 395 days. That alone, if you take the shortest one, is going to take you into the middle of next year. I think that's going to throw out the Bitcoin 4-year cycle. I think if the S&P is doing well, what are the crypto markets going to be doing? They're going to be doing even better. And we can go even further on that and look at sort of BTC divided by the S&P and how that's still in an uptrend. So we think there's a generally bullish environment technically. I think actually Tom Lee gives some good, I mean, he's been right on the S&P, whether he's right on everything else is still to be seen. Some good points in regards to the kind of run that we're going to continue to have. Tom Lee actually brings up some great points in regards to the S&P 500 and ultimately what he's expecting for that for the end of the year and why. He gives some great reasons. I want to go ahead and play this. I'm going to speed it up and then we'll look at some of what he's saying. We'll look at some news that broke today in regards to mortgage demand and some of the things going on politically in America that are going to affect crypto. And then we'll talk technically about the space. Let's dive into this.
You know, I'd say that we still think November's going to be an up month. I mean, with a lot of confidence. And the first reason for that is that stocks are up 6 months in a row, and it's almost going to strengthen the case for November to be positive. But we know it's going to be choppy. We think it's a choppy first 2 weeks, but then we ultimately end up, you know, over 200 points on the S&P. That would take us past 7,000. And these are the 6 years that I think are precedent markets. These are the times where the markets were up May through October. And you can see that the November to December, which is far on the far right, has been positive, except in 1936 when the markets basically were flat. But, you know, I think we're in a very different place. That was post-depression period. We're really in the middle of an upcycle. And, you know, I still think we're going to be at least 7,000 by year end, maybe 7,300. And if you think what's late cycle, just keep in mind that ISM is still below 50. 33 months now. We've never been top of the market when the ISM is below 50. And keep in mind, housing is still undersupplied. We have built only 13.6 million homes in the past 10 years versus 15 million household formations. That's a shortage. That's the opposite of the GFC when you had basically 7.5 million excess homes. And For those who think valuations are extended, keep in mind Nvidia is trading at only 29 times forward earnings. Costco's at 42.6 and Walmart's 35 times. It's still cheaper to buy Nvidia than to buy a GDP grower. And in 1998, Cisco was already at 56 times forward earnings before getting to 210 times. So I think we're far from a bubble.
And I thought that was brilliant. I truly did. I thought there was reasoning, rationale, which is important to have for why Tom Lee is essentially calling or calling bull on the S&P. Now, that aligns with what we're thinking, so of course we would like it. But I think there's sense and reasoning to what he's saying. And this is all important for us as crypto investors. We're yet to really see a massive alt season. I do think that's coming. You know, we look at the ratio chart for the top 10 versus the top 10, or for everything outside the top 10 versus the top 10. We look at BTC DOM. All this is coming. There needs to be a bullish general environment for that to take place. I think that's very much where we're at. Let's look at what he was talking about. Talks here about the ISM. He's very right. You know, the ISM is at 58.7. If you look historically, we'll take the draw off here. This is correlated with the BTC 4-year cycle. When the ISM is sort of below this point, actually the markets go up from here with the ISM. They don't top at a 58% ISM. We have news. He talks about home demands. Mortgage demand from home buyers hits highest level since September, despite rising interest rates. The average contract interest rate for 30-year fixed mortgage rate with conforming loan balance is $806,000 or less. Increase serves 6.3% from 6.31 last week. Mortgage applications to purchase homes had their strongest November since 2022. Refinancing demand dropped 3% for the week, and that'll be on that sort of interest rate fluctuation. There's a correlation between, obviously, mortgage demand can it's a demand for homes, essentially. There's a correlation between, if we look at the single family home pricing average in America, look at the S&P and look at M2. This is the great game, and they're going to continue to print, as Ray Dalio spoke about, the easing into a bubble thesis that he put out, which I thought was brilliant. When it walks, talks, and quacks like it's a duck, you need to own assets, quite frankly. Because if you don't, you're getting inflated. You know, unless you're going from every year, you're getting this pay rise that equals the kind of, that is relevant to the money supply creation. You're getting poorer and poorer. The way you can arbitrage that is with assets. And you shouldn't just do it for yourself because you're greedy maybe, or maybe I'm greedy. You should do it for the people around you so that they can benefit from your knowledge of understanding how this system that is rigged against you works. I mean, they're not even hiding that here in the UK in regards to what's taking place. So I really like Tom Lee's thesis. It aligns with what we're expecting for the S&P 500, of course, so I would like it. And I think I actually like Tom Lee. I think he's a good guy. Whether he's right on everything, we'll see. But I think generally he's been spot on about the S&P 500 like we have. And we ultimately think that continues. And that provides a really good backdrop for BTC, which is still in an uptrend against the S&P 500. And actually, we do have higher targets for this. This is still putting in higher highs and higher lows. And I see this continuing, which is why it's all relevant. Before we get into some technical stuff, there was some news. The US House will vote tomorrow, which is today, I believe, to end the government shutdown after 42 days. So Wednesday, 4 p.m. EST. We'll see how the markets react to that, if, of course, it gets voted through. Ellen Tourette also highlighting she's doing a great thing over at Crypto America. Just in, Senate committee has released its long-awaited bipartisan crypto market structure discussion draft. And we haven't had time to sort of sit through this. Talking about trend lines. So you guys believe, or you know I believe, whether you believe or not is your choice. I believe BTC DOM is now in what we would look at as phase 4, which is a downtrend, which means alt season. And I think this close, the weekly close, was telling in regards to it falling below support, now into resistance on a nice big wick. I think that this is now a downtrend, and I think this is just a pullback within that downtrend. And you're grinding pretty heavy along this. You may have even broken to the downside of it. We shall see. And we should really go down the smaller time frames and see what's going on here. Even though the markets got hit yesterday, BTC DOM had an initial pump and then sort of floundered. We'll see what happens. Is this the start of a greater downside for BTC DOM? Well, BTC needs to be going up for that. Of course, we do believe BTC will see continuation. We did look at a potential scenario for a falling wedge here. On BTC, it could just bounce from here and just see continuation, or it might want to complete that. Either way, the eventual outcome is continuation to the upside. The reason being is because the markets are in a great place and crypto is really going to outperform and shine that. And I think crypto on its own fundamental merit is still in a place where it's yet to be kind of globally adopted and used and utilized. We are, I believe, getting to that point. So stay long, stay strong. Of course, that's my own opinion. Make up yours. And I think it's very simple for us. When the bullish argument outweighs the bearish one, we remain bullish. We have done thus far. We've been right thus far. We're going to continue to be so. And we hope you're all along for that journey. That's it from me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to love and leave each and every one of you. Have a wonderful Wednesday. And I'll see you all in the